From a feminist perspective, I think So Weird is almost perfect. There's a strong female focus, and there are also male characters for balance. Fiona has her power, struggles realistically, and has room for weakness. Jack sometimes has to help her out, sometimes Fee has to save Jack. Rick is powerful and respected as a parental figure, and Molly is likewise respected as a maternal figure, even without powers per se. Had we got the proper third season, Fee would have displayed even more power and courage by rescuing Rick from hell. Even without knowing the true context of the song, In the Darkness is pretty empowering, and as a kid I would imagine myself summoning the strength to walk on fire and ice every time I heard the theme song. The siren from Season 2, Episode 3 Siren, played by Firefly's Jewel State, doesn't fall into sexist tropes, and is sympathetic as a girl being exploited by her female manager. The healthy romances are portrayed well, the creepy guys are creepy, and the ambiguous ones are portrayed as somewhat worrying. Even the awful third season is good through a feminist lens. Season 3, Episode 4, Eddie's Desk, has a part where it comes up that Clue took home Eck, and even though Annie kind of has a laugh, Clue defends guys taking it, and I appreciated that as a kid.
Home ec. Oh yeah, like you mean cooking and sewing and stuff?
Hey, guys can take home ec, those are useful skills.
As cheesy as it is, Annie's song Never Give Up from Season 3, Episode 6 Rewind is pretty inspirational, and I would listen to it the same way as In the Darkness.
You got to never give up, we'll never give in. And when you fall down, you got to get back up again. You know you got to be a fighter if you're ever gonna win. Hey, you got to never give up, never give in.
There are a few things that bother me, though. One is the heterosexism. No gay people exist in this world. Fee comments that only men go to see the siren. Even as a kid, I thought that was weird. I mean, there are lesbians out there, even if they're not the focus of TV shows. The 90s cartoon Reboot at least had a gay-coded waiter in some scenes. And then there's the racist element. I didn't notice this as a kid, but looking back on it as an adult more familiar with race politics, there are some cringe-worthy aspects. So Weird faces some of the issues of a show like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where there's a set group of people traveling around and interacting with one-off characters, meaning that most people of color met would be villains or people to rescue. What Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has going for it is that there are at least 2 people of color in the set group, but the Molly Phillips group is all white save for some assistants. Really, those aren't characters at all. That makes things awkward in Season 2, Episode 16, Blues, where all the white people intrude into a black domain to channel a blues singer, solve his murder, and spend the episode singing the blues. This was probably my favorite episode as a kid, but now it makes me feel gross.
Well, I'm here to tell you that your family's got what we call a sweet, solid case of the blues.
It seems like there could have been recurring characters of color like Tad Raxel and John Kane. The best treated character of color is probably Rebecca, who's interesting as the practically immortal mutant and wishes she was normal, but I worry that she could have turned into a magical Negro if we had the proper Season 3 with her as Jack's advisor. The magical Negro being a racist stereotype continuing the dynamics of slavery wherein the black character, despite possibly being made powerful in-universe, exists to serve the white characters and help them on their way. Good writing could have saved it, but Rebecca might be one aspect of the series that was saved by the revisions. Not that the Season 3 we got is particularly good. Season 3, Episode 5, Voodoo, does the usual misrepresentation of voodoo as evil witchcraft. Essentially, the white men who traded in black slaves demonized the existing spirituality of the black people and associated it with existing European witchcraft stories. All that voodoo doll stuff comes from English witch legends, and has nothing to do with the actual voodoo religion. While So Weird has a good representation of witchcraft under that generic label, and implies all of the female Phillips family members are witches, it plays the voodoo demonization completely straight. The group encounters black Caribbean immigrants who brought voodoo with them, and Molly and Annie are terrorized by a voodoo curse. It's indicated that there are both good and evil forms of voodoo witchcraft, but we only ever see the evil kind, accompanied by evil ethnic music. And then there's the Panther thing. In Season 3, Episode 25, Annie's Song, Annie runs into 3 Native American variant magical Negro characters. First, there's a shaman guy who recognizes Annie as having gone on a vision quest, even though I don't think she actually did. And then the shaman is possessed by Coyote, the trickster, who at first seems like he's going to be like Brick Ryu, but turns out to just be a boring guide there to help Annie remember about the Panther. He sort of, not really, takes her on a vision quest, where she has flashbacks to being a little girl in Peru. Because I wasn't paying attention earlier, I mistakenly stated that Annie's parents rescued a Peru native. Actually, it was Annie, accidentally attracting a deadly snake away from a native to bite her instead. The native's father was a shaman who mistook her supreme ignorance for a noble act of sacrifice, saved her with magic, and then pledged to keep her safe for the rest of her life by becoming the Panther Guardian himself. Whose bright idea was that? Native Americans have been dehumanized by colonialist narrative and enslaved, and So Weird draws from that same mindset in depicting Native Americans as existing essentially just to help white people, to the extent that one is literally dehumanized to becoming essentially Annie's pet. Someone thought that was a good enough idea to propose, and someone thought that was a good enough idea to sign off on, and no one criticized it, and it became part of the actual show. All of those people should be ashamed of themselves. Moving into a more humanist perspective, another thing that bugs me is the fear of science and scientific advancement. The show is generally pretty good about respecting technology as just one form of power, and one through which the younger generation can achieve strength. Technological strength is also the main facet of the mysterious aliens, who aren't exactly threatening so much as just mysterious and alien, and the fear comes from the unknown. In general, the aliens seem like good people we don't understand very well, and Fee seems important to them for some reason, which would have become apparent in the proper 3rd season we never got. On the other hand, the show rather bizarrely hates the idea of kids growing up on new technology. This mostly comes out in Season 1, Episode 6, Simplicity, about gremlins punishing Tad Raxel, a Bill Gates knockoff, for becoming arrogant with technology and not giving gremlins credit for humanity's technological achievements. Gremlins sabotage all technology that humans try to use in the town, appropriately enough called simplicity, thus stranding all travelers. In order to get the gremlins to forgive them, Fee has her family and Tad sing a version of Tad's not Microsoft company jingle that instead has lyrics praising a simple life free of the burdens of technology.
Technology is not the key. Don't let them wire you and me. Don't want to lose our humanity, so we'll just stick with simplicity.
This is a very dangerous viewpoint. While it's fine to want to go on vacation to a world free of things you find burdensome, or to seek out jobs that are in a comfortable environment, it's not good to wish the removal of all technology from the past couple centuries or so. The simplicity lifestyle presented as respectable in comparison to the arrogance of Tad Raxel is one that would realistically be filled with great hardship, poverty, and shorter lifespans. Bettering ourselves with technology does not represent a loss of humanity, but rather embodies the human spirit of learning about the world and putting that knowledge to good use. It doesn't even make sense from a narrative standpoint, because they don't decide to retire to simplicity in the end. They sing their song to the gremlins forgive them, and they leave in their bus. Molly continues to go on tour, Fee continues to use her laptop to identify paranormal phenomena, as well as be the web mistress of So Weird. Jack and Chloe buy a car, aliens use spaceships, and everyone admires the computer from Atlantis. The end of Simplicity tries to continue the theme by having Clue be unable to perform simple equations on an advanced calculator Tad gave him, and Fee gives him a pencil to have him do it himself. But that still doesn't make any sense. Anything so advanced it's unsuited for simple arithmetic is clearly used by other people for advanced math problems. Just because it's not for him in this situation doesn't mean that all technology is bad. I mean, it's good to promote to the kids watching that they figure out problems on paper, because practice improves their skill and just using a calculator doesn't reinforce that. But that's a fine message on its own without dragging in some obnoxious technophobia demonizing the calculator. That general sentiment also shows up in Season 2, Episode 18, James Garr, involving a man, James Garr, who was cryogenically frozen and emerged an empty shell. The explanation we're given is that when he was frozen, he technically died, and his soul left his body. When the body was resurrected, he had no more spark. The implication is that humanity is just not meant to meddle in the natural order of things. Which is why Fee never goes up against fate to save her grandfather. That would just be human arrogance. Season 2, Episode 17, Avatar, also sneaks in some technophobia. The general plot is about a boy genius cyber-stalking Fee and trying to kidnap her into the Matrix. But while the focus should always be on the kid being a creeper and the dangers of sharing too much information online because of the existence of creepers, the show instead has a message about how internet relationships aren't real, and you should never think that the internet is better than real life. It's like the show hates the internet at the same time it loves it. Incidentally, Smart Guy Season 2 Episode 19, Strangers on the Net, is an excellent illustration of the dangers of the internet, and at the same time why it's silly to demonize it. So Weird Season 3 Episode 6, Bangle By, is somewhere in the middle. It deals with a dangerous video game that hypnotizes kids, being peddled to them like a drug, but it hypnotizes them into becoming Stepford Mormon kids. Perfect from a pseudo-50s Pleasantville perspective, and it's portrayed as completely horrible for stealing their true natures as disorganized and rebellious individuals. In general, So Weird is pretty awesome, but dated and imperfect. I'd recommend it to anyone intrigued by the concept.